it be like to be a learning experience designer, or LXD? Not exactly sure what that's all about. Don't fret, we're gonna get into that real fast. But suffice to say, it's a professional who's keyed in on the learning journey of an individual when they're interacting with a new product or service. So in this talk, we're gonna cover, of course, what the job's all about, some of the rewards, some of the challenges. We're also gonna look at this guest, this great guest, industry expert. Her name is Dr. Sonia Tiwari. And we're gonna look at her career, how she landed in this space. We're also gonna find out some of the rewards, some of the challenges, some of the fulfilling moments that she finds within this line of work that, hey, they might align with some of the things that you might be interested in pursuing. Beyond that, we also touch upon AI and a whole bunch of other things. But as always, there's only so much I can cover within these YouTube videos. I do encourage you to check out the full-length audio version. You can do so wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... All right, well, I think it's about time we get into this. So why don't we? So as promised, we're gonna break down what an LXD, a learning experience designer, see, I've already got the lingo down. We're gonna contrast that job to a user experience designer, a UXD, which coincidentally, I've also covered here on Life as a, and at the end of this video, there'll be a link for that one if you wanna check that out. So anyway, have a look, have a listen.
So there is a lot of overlap, especially in the way we do research, conducting interviews, surveys, questionnaires, analyzing data or testing the products with users. That part overlaps. The difference is in the perspective. UX designers are typically just checking for usability issues, and LX designers are focusing on the learning, how well did someone learn from having used this product or service? So usually people assume it's just courses and training or, evaluation and everything in this strict, rigid academic sense. But I would say it's also very lighthearted and open-ended in the sense that a learning experience can take the form of an educational exhibit, a museum exhibit, or toys or games, AR and VR experiences. Basically anything that helps someone learn a specific skill or gain any specific knowledge.
All right, well, I hope that is giving some clarity in terms of what an LXD does, but to add even further depth to it all, I do have an example of Dr. Tiwari explaining one particular project that she was working on, which ought to, like I said, give a little bit more clarity in terms of, what the things you could be looking at, what you could be working on. So check this out.
School who wanted to develop some kind of gamified experience, but the Montessori philosophy is that not introducing screens to kids in school. So they wanted it all offline. The first natural instinct for me was to think of a toy, but then also I was thinking, toys are so open-ended, free play, so children may not be able to get the curriculum in an organized way, the way if they used an app, which, has a navigation, it tells you do this next, do that next. So I worked with a local textile artist to create like a soft book. So it was made out of fabric, and it had like each page had a different curriculum goal. Like if it's about reading the clock, the analog clock, so it had like moving parts of a clock that kids could move, and it had some instruction embroidered on the side. And it's all on my website if anyone wants to look at it. But yeah, so it's as if the entire game was recreated in textile form, very tactile and hands-on. So that's why it's hard to give like one representative example of everything. But yeah, each learning goal is so different. The audience is different. Their needs and limitations are different. But it's very exciting to think in context of the problem.
Next up is a clip of Dr. Tiwari explaining a day in the life of an LXD. Now, I do want to be clear here. She did state that, Her experiences might not be completely representative of all LXD because she has this particular focus on children's products, children's services, and those types of learning experiences. But all the same, I think it is worth checking out here. And also beyond that, there's another layer to this clip, which I want you to key in on, which is the structuring, how organized she is, not only, towards the craft itself and what she's doing within that space, but then also to herself in terms of improving and upskilling. So anyway, check this out.
I divide my week into 4 parts, which is research, teaching, outreach, and then upskilling. When I devote like the biggest chunk, 3 days a week, to focus on my research, where I am collecting data, analyzing it, designing some educational products in collaboration with K-12 teachers typically, because I focus on K-12 education. But then sometimes I have collaboration with higher education or companies. So I spend most of the time on research, then I spend a day teaching. My students are master's and doctoral students in education. So they are typically either K-12 researchers or teachers. And then I spend one day on outreach, which could look very different, like writing articles on LinkedIn or collaborating with school teachers or the local school district, or like, volunteering for American Toy Association or San Francisco Women Leaders Association, where there are a lot of educators in that community. Yeah. So yeah, and then if I don't have anything scheduled for a while, then I do try to upskill. I take stock of what am I really struggling with, where I need more practice, and I look up a LinkedIn tutorial or a course on Domestika, and then I try to address that.
Next up, I want to take a look at Dr. Tiwari's career and educational pathway. And I think a lot of young people, when they look at these people who have a lot of success in their careers, they believe that those individuals had this one vision and it was kind of like these beeline straight towards it. Well, let me tell you, in speaking with over 100 professionals on this program, that is rarely the case. And this is another perfect example of that, where Dr. Tiwari had one vision of where she wanted to go early on, and then ultimately that line kind of got a little bit squiggly. But what's interesting about this is that if you're reflecting enough along the way and you're finding out about what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like, things have a way of sorting themselves out. And that was exactly kind of what happened here with Dr. Tiwari. So anyway, have a listen and check this out.
So I was fortunate that I had a very supportive family. And even though I grew up in India, where I think engineering and medicine are the go-to career pathways, I kind of followed my sister into film school, where I got the opportunity to just, be creative, think about story more in depth. And then I realized that, live action wasn't really my thing, because I want like way too imaginary things and characters. So then I was drawn to animation. So I got my master's in animation, and just being in the Bay Area, because I did my master's from Academy of Art in San Francisco. So just being in that area, there were a lot of gaming companies there. So I wouldn't say that I was, as since a very young age, I was a gamer. That wasn't a big part of my identity. It was more just geographically, there were a lot of game studios. So I ended up working as a game artist. And there, I kind of felt like research was used as a marketing ploy. That, after everything was designed, it was like, oh, parents love our product and your kids will get smarter if they play 2 hours a day. It just felt not true, or not really backed by facts as much, or the facts seemed kind of made up.
A little warped. Yeah.
Yeah. And not to say that there are not any ethical researchers in the gaming industry. Of course there are, but overall, it just felt like, shouldn't people who are designing this stuff have an understanding of the thinking behind it also? And that's where I decided that, okay, I'm going to look at the behind the scenes, the reasoning. And so I pursued a PhD in learning design and technology. Well, we are drawing to a close within this highlight video. However, I do want to squeeze one more video, one more clip
into this. And this one is speaking to the point of fulfillment within this line of work. And the reason I want to put it in here is that I think it's an interesting one. It's one that I would have never considered. I never would have had any idea or any inkling towards this being a major facet of the work. But once Dr. Tiwari shared it with me, I was like, oh yeah, this is a big one. And I think it can really distinguish, you know, this career versus say some other ones in terms of what people might be looking for or might be needing in their own professional lives. So anyway, have a listen. I can see, like, from this point in our conversation, how, you know, fulfilling it could be on several different levels. But I think it'd still be interesting all the same to hear it from you. Like, what value are you deriving from the work that you're involved within?
I think it's very lucky to be in a position where you see the outcomes up close. For example, a UX designer who was part of like a 300-person team launched a product, and then, you know, later on the marketing team will receive the results from surveys or feedback. That person on an individual level doesn't get to see the impact. And it's also hard to measure that, you know, what was my specific role in it, because it was a big team.
Yeah.
So in working as a consultant or as a one-on-one mentor educator is just I feel very grateful that I get to see the outcome. I get the direct thank you notes, or even just seeing that a child was not able to do a certain thing before, and then after using a product or playing a game or something, they now can. And it's a very fulfilling feeling.
All right, well, we are reaching that point where you probably should be wrapping this video up here. But if you're liking what you're hearing and you're interested to learn more about being an LXD, definitely check out the full-length audio version. We get into AI and how that's shifting and changing the whole LXD universe around. We also have a look at some other examples of projects that Dr. Tiwari's been part of, and then also some of her other experiences and insights related to this field. So you can find this wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... All right, well, I do hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I really appreciate a like or subscribe. It's the best way to let this YouTube algorithm know that this content matters. All right, well, I'll have another video for you coming right next week. So stay tuned for that. All right, we'll see ya.